Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. I have Julia Carlson. She is a principal and managing director of Fit Money. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. I'm glad you're here. I want to get into what is financial fitness and how does it compare to other programs. But before we do, give us some feeling of you, your background, how you got to where you are, and then let's dive right into today's topics.
Okay, that sounds good. So I found my love of business and investments actually when I was a child. My grandpa, I remember going and visiting my grandpa during the summer, and he would be watching TV and those tickers would be coming across the bottom of the TV, and I was like, what is that? And my parents had a very healthy mindset around money. They taught me about stocks. I remember having my first job at McDonald's and my dad helping me save some of that money into my very first investment.
Do you remember what it was?
Oh, well, it was definitely a mutual fund, and the company is not around anymore, and so it's transferred to several different ones.
Got it. You got into the market. Got it.
I got into the market. Yes.
All right. Now, tell me, what is financial fitness, and how does it compare to other programs?
Well, for me, I started my business when I was 23. I became a financial advisor. It was just me, and at that point, I had no kids. I was in shape, and fast forward 15 years, had 3 kids, a successful business, but my fitness had kind of taken a back seat. I had gained some weight, so I decided, all right, I got to get back in shape. So what do? I decide to sign up for a bodybuilding competition.
Okay.
Hired a coach. I spent a year training for a bodybuilding show, and then I ended up competing for about 5 years. And in that time, I discovered the same skills that I needed to get my body in the best shape were the same skills people need to get their financial life in shape. And so last year I wrote a book about it.
And you wouldn't happen to have the book with you, would you?
I do, yes.
Great. Show it to us. All right. All right. Why did you write the book? What was the motivation in the background on this?
Well, for me, as a financial advisor, I sit with clients and prospects all the time talking about money. And what I'm realizing is the hardest part is getting started. The hardest part is overcoming the noise or the stories we have in our head around money. So helping people have the framework to go through these steps to get on track and kind of take the scariness or the fear away from it is exactly what people need. And so that's what I wanted to share that and give that to the world.
I'm glad you did. Now, in your book, you have 7 steps to get your financial life in shape. Can you give us some insight on that? Yeah,
so I feel like the very first step is having the desire to change, right? So it all starts with that commitment to recognizing, yes, this is something I want to change, and I need to have dedication, and I need to understand my purpose and my why behind it, because when you're going to want to go to the stores or get off track, you've got to have a compelling reason to come back to of why you want to do this. And then, I don't know if you want me to go through all the steps, but it's having this healthy money mindset, figuring out a way to get rid of the limiting beliefs around that and bring in supporting beliefs. And then relationships and money, that is step 3. So we all have relationships in our lives, whether it's with a spouse or someone that can support us if we're single. And having someone to talk to about money, I mean, it's the leading cause of divorce. So if we can have a framework to go into relationships and talking about money, that's super important.
Absolutely.
And then it goes into more of the practical, to making sure you have proper protection in place.
Let me jump in there for a second. One of the things that popped out to me is you suggest financial dates. What do
Yes.
you bring that up for us?
Okay. So typically in a relationship, one person is going to be more like kind of in charge of managing the budget or paying the bills. And so like for me in my relationship, that's me. When I got married, I was 19 and I started paying the bills. My husband and I really didn't have a conversation around it until probably 10 years later, when I was equipped with information to figure out how to have a healthy conversation around money. And so oftentimes when one person is doing everything and they don't know how to effectively communicate that with the other partner. And so a financial date is a structured time that both partners commit to setting that, coming to the meeting, willing to listen, willing to share, and then there's framework, there's actual an agenda to it, right? So there's framework that you can go through with your partner that will help from the escalations and the money fights and all of that.
Or
Typically,
let me jump in there on that one. Or in an extreme situation, which happened to me in my life, I want to relate to you on this point. You get to the end of their life, so for some tragic reason they die, and you don't know what they were doing.
yeah. I've seen that more. Yes, that's very, very common in when I work with clients. Often one of the partners does all the investing and works with all the money, and the other person kind of doesn't have a clue. So
or in some cases, generally in your classic male-female relationship, I'll bring in the money, honey, you take care of it.
yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's kind of sexist, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, it is. And I just encourage couples to both to work on it together, right? What a standard we have in my office is I need both partners to come to the meeting with me.
Right.
And it's very important to me, whichever partner is not that involved is, there's tools that I use to pull them in and get them involved.
What's the hardest thing about starting your own business from your perspective?
Not giving up. I think I was young at the time, so I had lots of energy and I could really give my sole focus to my business. But I think about now, it would be hard as a mom to 3 and all the different roles that I play in my life to start, because really in those first 5 years, you're giving and giving and giving. And if you think it's an exchange at that point for value, dollar-wise, it's not, right? It's like you work so much harder in the beginning to reap the benefits for years down the road.
I believe that. What do you feel a person's money mindset is, or why do you feel a person's money mindset is so important?
Well, our thoughts are what we think about, we become. And so if we constantly worry and are anxious and we have these thoughts that I'm never going to have enough money to retire, or I'm never going to get out of debt, or I don't have money to pay all my bills. All of those thoughts are happening, and that's typically what we manifest. And meaning that's what you're thinking about, that's who you're becoming, as opposed to thinking about what's real, like what thoughts that I have about money are real, and what are silly stories that sometimes we have from childhood, seeing our parents, their taboos around money, right? Or their feelings around money.
What's the number one mistake you see when people are trying to say, get out of debt?
Mm-hmm. I think it goes back to people thinking that's going to happen all of a sudden, or thinking that it will take forever and giving up, right? So there is some behavioral finance tools, right, that you need to think about when getting started, meaning people need to see progress. And they also need, in my experience, they need to see it visually. So if it's like going on a diet, right? So if you say, I'm going to go on a diet, but you don't step on the scale and see what you weigh at the beginning, or you don't have a plan to track along the way, then most won't be successful, right? Mm-hmm. But I like to have people kind of step on the Fit Money scale, see where you're at with your assets, and also like really write out and see what you owe money on. And oftentimes people have to go pull a credit report, right? Or go, get all the bills together and actually write it all down on one sheet of paper. Oftentimes that is the first step that people miss and try to kind of haphazardly put a plan together, and it just doesn't typically work.
No, it crashes. Now, for a young person who's just starting out, what's the one thing that, you think they really need to know about financial fitness?
I think probably two go hand in hand. Number one, understanding consumer debt, right? Understanding credit cards and how credit works. Like I'm constantly, my kids are 9, 11, and 15, and we're talking about credit cards and what does that mean? And when we go to stores and they offer the store credit card, oh, mama, you could have saved money. Why don't you want to do that, right? And so it's that education, I think, that needs to happen in our youth about credit and debt. And then on the other side of that, talking to kids about the concept of saving money, and also thinking about, I teach them the compound interest, right? The rule of 72. I talk about Albert Einstein and the discovery of that. And I actually have, I'll have kids come into the office here, like a teenager day where it's all personal finance. And I have them do those calculations. And their eyes to light up to see if they started now, what that would be on into the future.
Brilliant. Julia, thanks for being a guest on the show. Appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You've been watching CEO Money with Michael Yorba. Don't forget, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.